Thank you. Before I call on the meeting to order, I'd like to review the area of how we found the meeting that allows which is a level that's that's quite often used, and its translation is really all knowledge is not taught in the same school. And so the subliminal message is that we can always be learning. It comes from many sources. It is called meeting to order. The Kona Action Committee will now come to order. It's lunch. Wait, you guys can fix that. It is Tuesday, April 16th.
No. Yeah.
You're getting me in trouble. Okay, and it's now 12:07. So this meeting is being held in person and interactive conference technology. The meeting will be recorded on Zoom as a reminder for Sunshine Law. Please see members appear in the keep their cameras on and announce anyone who is with them, except for minus in their location. And so we have just one AC member on, and that's Roosevelt.
Yes.
Yeah, so we just need to know if there's anybody in the room with you or in the location. Hi, Rosalind, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you. Yes.
Yeah, so we just need to ask if there's anybody in the room with you at your location.
Yeah, my daughter, but she's not, she's in the other room.
So, we'll do the roll call now. I'm gonna ask each committee member to introduce themselves. I'll start with you, Roseanne. Okay. Want to introduce yourself? Okay, let's go this way. I'll ask Nancy first.
Good morning, everybody. This is Nancy CTO. I live in Kona.
John?
John volunteer, I live in the Kalao area.
Heather Parati, and I live in.
Yeah, I'm the chair for this meeting. And Roseman?
Oh, I'm a rollover for the,
All right.
yeah.
Okay, fine. Excuse absences of David Huerta and Gary Jepstead. I think since Marissa sent that in, she's excused. Okay, so I'm gonna ask the Office of Planning staff to introduce themselves.
Jessica Levitt, Long Range Planning Staff.
Cavallo Khalili, Long Range Planning. And we also have Mariam Palma and Zoom.
Hi, everyone.
Just housekeeping, make sure your cell phones are off or on silent mode. If anyone would like to testify, please sign up. I think there's a sign up is there. And we'll probably take you in the order that you signed up. But your Zoom testifiers, also, I think, need to indicate that. I guess, Mariam, you taking care of that, or we're taking care of that?
Yeah, we're taking care of it here.
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
So anyone testifying in person, please state your name when you come forward, but also try and name yourself in the conversation at the audience. So it's now 12:11, and the committee will now consider approval the draft minutes from March.
Motion to approve, Nancy.
I'll motion a second for a second. Johnson.
Okay, so Nancy, motion, and John Second. So it's been moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion? Okay, well, hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, hearing none, then the motion carries. And the minutes of the March 19th. Please approve. Okay, so now it's 12:10. I'm gonna call for statements from the public and you can either testify now, I'm not sure the men behind you signed up. If you want to, but also when we get onto the item on the agenda, you can also testify at that time. So I'm not sure if anybody would want to step up now or wait till the agenda item comes forward. How many do we have signed?
Did anybody want to sign up for testimony?
Is there anyone on Zoom that would like to?
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is Chuck Flaherty. I would like to testify when appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. You should fill it out so we have a record, and if you want to wait for the agenda, I want to testify, you can do that. Okay.
If you want to testify now or wait for that.
So is anyone going to testify now?
Yeah, she's not sure if she can do it now, yeah, so.
You make món này có loại vậy đồ về đi xem
So I have just one person here signing.
Yeah, and she's gonna testify
Okay.
at the agenda.
Yeah, she said, and Cheryl, you're gonna testify now, do you have comments now, or you gonna wait for the agenda? Okay, fine, great. Okay, so it's 12:15, and we're gonna move on business, item number 1, which is the allocated fund update. And committee member John here will provide update on the allocated fund.
Yeah, so, I mean, we were hoping to get someone from the Parks Department to talk to us about this, you have. Y'all on the staff, not heard back from them, all about that. We were trying to get someone from the Parks Department to speak with us about the park, have y'all heard back from them or anything from them? on that?
John, give me a second. Let me pull up what we got back from them. We were just wondering if you had any other things on your side.
Yeah, and I do have some things to say, but I just wanted to ask that first, yeah. I guess while we're looking that up, I did speak with Bo Kugui, who is he's the head of White Pack, who gave me an update. There's kind of two things that are really blocking this park right now. One is the Parks Department's doing EIS. They're doing a cultural impact study, but they need to also do the environmental impact study. Bo said that they met with the mayor after the mayor and the Parks Department after the state of the county address. And kind of got what he described as a similar runaround of, well, we're gonna do it sometime this year, but they were supposed to do it sometime last year. They are planning to have a meeting with them coming up in the next, either this month or next month. He did invite me to come to that meeting, to hear what they have to say. I need to follow up with him about that, because I haven't heard anything back since then. The other issue, which is kind of a broader issue, is the issue with water. They originally put in the plan that they were gonna use, wastewater treatment plant water. But that project of upgrading the wastewater treatment plant seems a low priority for the Department of Environmental Management. I read that they have to make upgrades to all of the wastewater treatment plants, and he will be getting the priority. Bo also said he lives at La Iopua, and they are talking about getting a well drilled. They're working with the county on that. I think there was some money passed in the legislature for that. And he said that that water from that well can be used for the park. I don't know the details if that's guaranteed or not, but you know, it's right next to the park and everything. But so that's what he had to say about those two items. And that's really most of the update. I've learned a lot more about water over the past month, kind of in general, but I think specifically with the park, those are kind of two updates. I think you really need to hear from the Parks Department what their status is with this park, and what their, I guess, I don't know, opinions or what the plan is for this park. It seems really with them. It's the current, so that's why we're open to hear from them. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, it looks so we reached out to both Parks and Rec and to DWS over the past weeks. We basically got back that while Parks and Rec have been having like larger picture conversations with DWS, DWS doesn't have any information on the park's needs and wouldn't be able to provide any project specific information at this time. And when we asked them to come to present or to come and talk to you folks, they basically came down with that they don't really have any information to present because they're in the process of updating the master plan for the regional park and finalizing the draft EA. They don't have a design consultant contracted yet to undertake the design development for the initial phase of the park, but they're working closely with DEM on how they will successfully coordinate the efforts to produce, deliver, distribute, and utilize R1 water from KWTP to and at within the regional park to minimize any demand for DWS's potable water service to the park. So there's still a lot of details that need to come together and still a lot of programming issues that need to be worked on through PNR. So they don't really have substantial information, and so they essentially said that they respectfully request that the agenda item be suspended. But if there are specific questions that the Kona AC would like to present to PNR, that they can be emailed in and that they'll respond to that. So that's kind of where, as far as we were able to get on our side.
Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for reaching out to them.
Yeah.
I guess y'all have any opinions on that information, or I don't know. Seems to be
Well, I'm still unclear on the decision-making process for what the park design and how that was determined, and who is the approving entity in terms of the park design. And so that was the main question I had. Everything that I've heard about the park has been sort of word of mouth. I haven't ever seen anything in terms of a process that it went through in terms of determining that it was required to use recycled water. I've never seen that in writing. I've heard people talk about it. And also in terms of the so-called preferred plan, I don't know how that was determined, and you know, who's going to pay for it. It seems like a very expensive infrastructure the so-called preferred plan, and how that was determined, and who approved it, and when it was approved, and so I have a lot of questions in terms of how, why we're at where we're at, where it came from, so to speak.
Yeah, and I guess why are we, this park has been planned for so long, and you know, it never seems to move forward. So why is it not moving forward, I guess? Are they just considering that we won't get the water for it, so they should just not move forward with any of this other stuff that needs to get done? I don't know, that's the part that confuses me. You know, these are a big part of the community development plan, and we don't have a lot of parks, especially in the North Kona area. And I don't know, feels like it's important to us, but it doesn't seem important to the Parks Department, and I'm just wondering why, or what that is, yeah. I don't know. Those are kind of questions I have, I guess.
So maybe we can come up with, or whoever wants to draft up a list of questions, and we can work with you guys to kind of to do that, and then even send that in to them and kind of help keep tabs on it, to ping it to make sure it doesn't get forgotten also. That's just something we could do. Yeah.
I'm wondering if maybe we should get more information on the broader issue of the water in its entirety. Availability, usage, projected usage, among which the park would be one of it. One, because it seems like it's, the way it's tangled up now is they need to convert the wastewater treatment plant to a RS1, which, as John said, and I've been told, is way down on the priority. And I think, me speaking for myself, I think that ought to be in the top of the priority, because there's just so many new developments being, approved that's gonna take water, and it's going to then end up in the wastewater coming back as RS2. And they're already in the soup with the quality that's coming out of the validated plant. So maybe as an agenda item, maybe we can't discuss it here, but maybe in the next agenda item, maybe we could actually ask the water department to give us a briefing of what they know, because they'll have a broader picture for us, I think, of water demands and what's the way in the park.
So maybe we can come up with like two kind of forms of like the questions for PNR and some more detailed questions for DWS, because DWS basically told us, the same, that they can't comment on that there's, that, but maybe if we come with more narrowed in questions, maybe we'll be able to get some headway, or get them to come to the meeting to kind of do a little Q&A. Also, would be nice.
Would you want that letter to come from us, from the AC, or would you prefer you come in from planning?
I think, I think maybe the PNR, maybe we can work with John, maybe we can set up a meeting and kind of talk it through a little bit. And then the same for DWS, and then I can kind of just check in with chairs and other people before we send it out with the rest of the whole AC, before we send out those email questions. What do you think about that?
That works for me, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That works.
Let's give that a shot.
Any other comments from committee members? If not, any from the audience, or from the those present that might want to testify on this one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Please state the name.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Lucia, and I'm just testifying on behalf of myself and the community and the kids. I was born and raised here. I'm a Kona grad, 1991. And I have a heart for the youth. I've been an athlete all my life. My husband and I started a foundation 3.5 years ago to help at-risk kids who power sports. And I currently have kids that play sports. Any given Tuesday or Thursday, we all know them, but I just want to tell you how bad it's gotten, and it's so frustrating to see how long anything takes to get done around here and we know there's so many factors involved, and we're grateful for all the hard work. We know there's lack of funding, we know there's lack of people and all of these things, but just a small example, I used to be the athletic trainer at California High School. When I left there, which was 16 years ago, I almost had that all-weather track funded by a foundation, the Livestrong Foundation. They were gonna fund it. That fell through for various reasons. It only got finished last year. So it takes it seems like it takes at least 15 years for the county to get anything done. Any given Tuesday or Thursday, you're down at the soccer fields, down at the old airport. I took a video of it, my kids play soccer. Right now, there are 12 teams trying to share 3 fields. And it's just ridiculous. We had to get practices canceled because we were given field space and then the field space is taken away. And I know everybody needs more here. The population has grown. There's just more and higher need. And I just know the importance of athletics for kids. It helps keep them off the streets. That's where my heart and passion is. It helps keep their health from diabetes, with all of those issues involved. And it's frustrating. We don't understand who makes all the decisions and why and where the money is being put. We know that the city government is in Hilo, so the majority is over there. They've got plenty of facilities. This side of the island has been neglected for decades as far as athletic facilities, decades. I don't want to lose any more generations of kids because we're not offering them better on this side of the island. A brand new gym just got built way down south. Their population is, who knows what, 500? Our gym down at the old airport's roof leaks, and they have to cancel practices and cancel games for various reasons. So I don't know who makes the decisions that the funding goes, not that they don't need it as well. I'm happy for them, but I'm just saying the decisions need to be made better. Things need to be pushed along. There's so much red tape involved. We have a relationship that we built for many years. I was born and raised here with very wealthy people who do want to get back to this community, but they want to do it through people they trust. So we've been knocking on so many doors, private land, private money. We might be able to get something done in 5 years. It seems like with the county, it takes at least 3 times that amount of time. And so I'm just here to testify that what can we do to help expedite this process, help however we can, because it's all about relationships here in Hawaii. And me as a parent, I truly care not just for my kids, because my kids will probably never see this, which breaks my heart, but for the generations to come. And I just want to know what more we can do to help to expedite the process and to help keep more of our kids off the street. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thanks a lot for coming and sharing your perspective.
Yeah.
It's helpful for, especially since we're trying to work on these things, it's good to get input.
Yeah, and like I said, I graduated from Kona in 1991, and since then, Virginia Isabel was a good friend of ours, and she talked about old airport parking lots, you know, how that was supposed to be developed. Nothing has been done, you know, basically, and that was 20 plus years ago. And now we've heard about this, you know, the California Park way, which we're super excited about, but it's like, that's probably not gonna happen for another 10, 15 years as well. We hope, you know, but in the meantime, it's like, we can't even practice, there's not enough space. And right across the street, there's open land we know who owns that. And that should be given to the kids or donated for a while, at least for the next 10 years, you know, to have fields be built or whatever. In the meantime, with all this vacant land around that's privately owned by other estates and trusts, it's like, where are they to offer to give back to the kids when that's what they were set up for? So.
Yeah, thank you for that, Sonia.
Would that be a capital improvement project? The park, would it fall under CIP? No.
Seem to be one of the,
Well, I just,
like part of the, some funding to do for the revised GIS, for example.
yeah, I just wondered if it's on the issue, right? I think it's on, because it's not.
I don't think that should be improvements themselves to the.
The question is whether the old airport or Kealakea Park is CIP.
Both.
Both could be. I did look to see if the EA was already listed in the CIP, and I didn't see it, so that's also where I'm just kind of on hold, waiting to hear more details from Parks.
Can we get a list of the CIP or the priority list, maybe, so we can take a look at it?
Yeah, yeah, we can send that over. Can we make a note, ladies, to send that over to the ACs? Actually, we can send it out to all the ACs.
So the process has been approved in front of. Yeah. I guess. But what we're waiting on is for the council. This is for this one specifically. I'm not too sure about it.
They need to update the EIS and complete the EIS, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Kevin, did you want to testify on this one? Yeah, have a seat.
Where's the camera, but right here. Okay. I'm Colin Childs, I live in Wolverine. With regard to the Delta Regional Park, I would encourage this committee to not get caught up in the silos of the individual departments. Each one saying another agency has to do something before we can do something. I would encourage the committee to try to bring this matter, if this committee considers it to be a priority, which I would encourage it, if it's not on your annual priority list, that you would have it different. But if it is, you ask for it in the mayor's office, probably through Bobby from there, to try to have a mayor's level contact with, not necessarily the department heads, but for problem solving on this. Because each agency has a reason why another agency has to do something else first, or some contractor someplace has to get this for that in order for them to go here and there. I don't think this body, your body, wants to hear, you don't need that, all that mess. What you need is a picture from a leader, from the mayor, as to, is this important? And is there a way that you can see, or will you think you can find a way to make this happen in the break ground within 5 years? Is that possible, Mr. and Mrs. Mayor? We can accomplish that. Rather than get caught up in details which one would get anywhere on this. We know, for example, there have been, still are issues with the water aquifer in the minds of the people with the state commission of water resource management, that they think, they believe that additional water should not be drawn. We also heard today that there may be another well having been permitted, whether it's been pending a permit or as a permit. There are major differences because of this issue with the issue on water resource management and the aquifer issue. And if so, can water be available? And if so, could, for example, in problem solving, if that's possible, could the water even just be borrowed for 10 years until the recycling to R1 from California is done, and those water units be released back to whether it's the HHL or whoever is going to loan the money, so the park can be done for its beneficiaries as well. A land lease arrangement on water units based on DEM and others coming up with the R1 after they've solved their EO crisis. Maybe a way to work around it. So it's that kind of thinking, problem solving, and also asking when a water department, as the water department knows, Mr. Okamoto, that they have scientists have found that there are deep level aquifers below the ones that parks, national parks is concerned about, 1,000 feet below pumping fresh water on the wall, right up under here, under the wall line. And that was presented at a recent summit last year. So there are many options and ways that we can work around this problem so that we can have water, we can have a park, but we need to have the administrations committed. And that's what I would encourage the committee to find out. Are they committed to pulling this together, to examining some of these ideas and different technologies, rather than just hear what the parties representatives are seeing. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, that was very useful. Very good. Yeah, I guess the question is, should we send something to the mayor as well?
Yes. Did you, well, this week, it was there recently.
Yeah, they met with the mayor recently and they, you know, I need to reach out to them again about this. They plan on meeting with the mayor.
This is Parks and Recs. Or,
This was, he had previously met with the mayor and Parks and Rec, so this might just be the Parks and Rec. I'm not sure about the mayor.
It's a difference with the action committee meeting and
Yeah.
other people who would then come back and talk to you.
Yeah. Yeah, well, this is a meeting that I was. But yeah, I do think that keeping the pressure up from us also. It's to get something from them to us. We can do.
you think the right channel is to Bobby, right?
To the mayor.
Yeah. Okay. You can start there.
And he is also a lot of to the concerns with any aspects about the water aquifer and the interplay of that. He is very tuned into that aspect. We talked to St. Tim prior to actually trying to have an audience with the mayor, which he may or may not get, but Bobby is the big. He is opposed to it.
Okay, Mary, can we work on those details as well? Maybe we just consolidate the request through Bobby. And then we'll see where he can take us. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other discussion on this item? If not, it's 12:30 and we can move to
Mr. Chair, excuse me.
sorry, oh, I'm sorry, Chuck, I didn't know you were on this side.
No, that's okay. I had posted in the chat that I wanted to testify on this particular agenda item, if you don't mind, also on item number 5. Is that fine?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so with regard to the Kealakekee Park, I really appreciate the testimony that's been given, especially from the mother who's very frustrated with the lack of facilities. As long as I've been in Hawaii since 1996, this park's been spoken about and planned for. So I understand her frustration. With regard to water, I think even thinking about going to the aquifer for water for the park is just really not a no-go, because there's currently the law. I think Steve Holmes came and gave a presentation to you all about the fact that there's this current Earth Justice litigation that is going to be requiring Kealakekee to deal with its outflows, and water recycling is the most economically feasible and easiest way to deal with that. So I think everybody has always thought that water from the wastewater treatment plant would be providing the water for that park. So I would hope that that would be the thrust of this committee's efforts, not to look for additional water resources in the aquifer, but to recycle the water that's already being drawn from the aquifer. In addition, when I was doing the general plan comprehensive review, I looked at the area where the regional park was located, and I thought that I saw that it had been reclassified from an open area, and I really think it should be recreation. I tried to go back and verify that, but it appears that the general plan and the land use maps have been taken down and they're no longer accessible. So that's something that I would like for y'all to ask, because I think it's really important that we still have access to the comments that are online on that plan, as well as the map, to continue to look at things we may have missed because of how complex the whole process was. That's all that I had to say about that agenda item. With regard to new agenda items, I'd like for the Kona CDP Action Committee to consider placing on the agenda an item with regard to a situation that I became aware of down in South Kona. I think a lot of times South Kona gets lost in the mix here because it's rather remote and agricultural. But there's apparently a road that's being bulldozed right now from from the highway down to just before the SMA on a property. And I forwarded a map. We don't know who did the map. Apparently, it's called a geotechnical investigative road. But the concern is that there's no permit. The county DPW says that neither the grubbing permit requirements for grubbing more than an acre, nor the grading permit requirements that excavation material of 50 cubic yards or greater has been triggered, which seems sort of incredible for a road that's being bulldozed, that's over 2 miles long on a steep incline, Mountain of Mackay. So I'm hoping that I'm doing more investigation into this, and I'll be providing that information to this particular property. What other properties could these geotech investigative earth moving activities are they somehow exempt? So it's not clear at this point how it is that there's no permit. What's especially disturbing is that there are archaeological sites that are described on this map just with circles that are filled in with a green marker, and there's the road, there's just no survey information on the map, so it's not certain where these sites are, but it shows the map going, amongst and between them. So I'm not sure that SHPD is involved. DPW couldn't answer that question. They sort of presumed that they had already done work. So it's just a very disturbing situation where you've got earth moving activities in a very environmentally and cultural sensitive area. So I would hope that y'all could put that on the agenda for the next meeting. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much for your time. And thank you for your volunteer work. I know it's very difficult.
Chuck, would you happen to know what Ahupua that is? It's in?
It's OP Holly.
Opi Hari?
Yeah, it's I sent the TMK. It apparently is the Kona Estates at OP Holly project property, but I've only had secondhand information given to me. The map does not have the TMK on there, but I've been told that the county inspector, that's the property that was inspected, and that there was a finding that no permit was required. So I believe it is the Kona Estates at OP Holly project area, which is TMK 87142, I believe is what the TMK is. If I'm remembering correct, hold on one second. Yes, 87014-002. And Charlie, I don't know if through your work with the Barrel Council and familiarity with South Kona, if you're familiar with the sites down there, but yeah, it's just a little concerning about what's going on right now.
Thanks, Chuck. Well, since I live in South Kona, I'll probably take a look at it and try and find out. Is that the map you're showing now?
This
I'm
is
sorry?
this is the map that Chuck submitted. We forwarded it to you guys, so you guys can look at it also. But yeah, this is what was sent in.
So that the highway is at the top, and the shoreline and the trail and the SMA area are down at the bottom. The green circles that you see are archaeological sites. Apparently there's a cultural monitor that we don't know who's hired them, but apparently they're on site as well. I don't know we don't know if that's some sort of arrangement with SHPD or if it's with the landowner. That's not clear.
You repeat the TN. It's 714-2. Mayor, when did you send that to us?
This morning we received a bunch of late testimony from different individuals. This is one of them. So we've been forwarding them as we get them. When Jess and Cavello get back into the office, then we can kind of put them together and put them all in the meeting packet and update that meeting packet link and send that out as well.
My apologies for sending it late. I've just been swamped with stuff, all volunteer stuff.
Who's not swamped up?
The alligators.
Well, thanks for that heads up.
Yeah, I got it.
But I think we can come back to this when it comes to I believe item when we're talking about new proposed items.
Okay,
And
I can put
I appreciate it. I'm gonna have to leave the meeting because I'm testifying before the county council committees too. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thanks, Chuck.
okay, are we okay to move on to business item number 2? Anyone else?
Oh, shoot. Hello.
Is that Janice?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
I can,
Yes.
we can.
Oh, boy. Okay, I'm on safe driving mode. I'm not driving. I don't know how to do this. Oh, sorry. Hi, everybody. And I have headphones on. I'm sorry about my technical difficulties. Yeah, I wanted to talk just regarding the action committee focus. There were 3 things, and sorry for my late testimony too. Same thing, busy people. So the first thing I was thinking is that I'm hoping that the AC focuses on TODs and TNDs. Without them, they're the necessary components and template of smart growth. And if they're missing, we really aren't headed in the right direction or able to, connect all the parts for the KCDP. So that would be, the high density core with significant connective and restorative green open space connecting those TODs and TNDs. That was the first thing I wanted to suggest. I also wanted to suggest revisiting the past amendments that were made to the CDP. I'd like to ask Corp Counsel or have you guys ask Corp Counsel to thoroughly explain the amendments that were made to the CDP years back. They were very tentatively approved by the Action Committee with, I think, an overall lack of understanding of the ramifications. From what I do understand, but I'm definitely confused about it, they've seemed to hold up some of the efforts to us moving forward with the CDP goals and promises. And I would like to ask the question if it's better to, remove those amendments and revert back to the CD's original wording to more constructively move forward or not. And then the last thing I want to suggest is that the AC asked to have proposed development presentations like we used to have. Some developers that had plans would come and show us those plans before they got really deeply involved in the process. And I remember one that was particularly helpful off of Lee Drive. And, I just think it helped everybody to, go towards the same way instead of all fighting each other. So if they would be able to start doing that again, I don't know how you decide which developments come. I mean, I know we're not supposed to be a decision-making body as far as whether those developments are good or bad, but more as a way to provide another, positive layer of public input. I think that would be helpful. Thanks.
Thank you. So, Janet, I think you're talking about business item number 2.
Oh yeah, sorry. Is that where I'm really having techno difficulties here? Yeah, business item number 2.
Okay, well, just in
Can
case,
barely hear you.
Sorry, can you hear me?
I can, but just barely. I'll work it out. Thanks, Charlie.
I'm just gonna close business item number one, if we're okay, and then I'll.
Oh,
Thank
yes,
you.
yes, yes. Okay, sorry. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, so, we're gonna have a presentation by the planning department staff.
Yes, Mariam.
Excuse me, Charlie, can I ask you something else? If we're going, are we doing item number 3 under the business now?
No, we're on Tuesday yet.
Oh, still 2. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, everybody, thank you. So just a little, I don't know, intro to the PowerPoint. Over my time here, having been across visiting the different ACs and helping host and whatnot, I'm seeing some common themes that have been happening, and a lot of it, some of it is COVID, some of it is staffing, but there's something I'm looking forward to us is finding a way to get our action committees kind of re-strategized in a way that's more geared towards action instead of, say, even becoming a place for news updates or coming just to a dead end that we don't kind of accomplish things. So in that, with that energy, looking to see how we can, what have we been doing, what's working, what's not working. See if I can get it to go. And so with that, planning has been going across to the different ACs, working with chairs. We've kind of brought back these chair and vice chair meetings that we meet to discuss proposed business items and draft the agenda together. And then the next step of that is getting the ACs, each AC to kind of settle in on some specific action items for the year, some priorities. Because these CDP documents, they're great, but this is a large district and there's so many things inside of them that there's no way we could possibly touch on all of them, or let alone like make strides forward on many of these items. So hoping to narrow down our focus and come up with a strategy on how we're going to tackle these items. Many of these items are pretty big. Some of them are noted to take up to 10 years. But if we find what motivates our action committee members, then we can kind of narrow in on these, piecemeal these goals out, and see what kind of progress we can make together. And so with that, keep in mind throughout this presentation, one, I'm just kind of doing an intro, bringing us back to the basics, and then presenting some examples just to brainstorm, get that conversation going. None of us are have no, we're here to facilitate the conversation and kind of help get the ball rolling. These examples that are in the PowerPoint are just examples taken from the document. But like I said before, there's so many things within the document. And then there's many other things that might be relevant that aren't explicitly noted within the document, but there's definitely more often than not a way to connect other ideas or projects and route them into the CDP document. So we have that rationale to guide us and to help as we talk and knock on different doors, because many of these items require more than just the action committee. So that's my little disclaimer. Feel free to pause and ask questions at any moment. But yeah, the goal also after this step, we talk about it, we see where our focuses lie. We come up with some options, hopefully today. Planning will send out a Google form if you come up with more items that you want to consider, and we can strategize how exactly we want to try to tackle those. And then also with these kind of these re-strategizings, a goal is also to even get the chairs of the different ACs in communication with one another. So we'll be hosting those meetings and then see if there's how the different chairs can be supporting and sharing information and kind of keep the ball moving forward. So let's just kind of get it going. So refresher and implementation guide for the Kona CDP AC. So the purpose of the CDP Action Committee to be a proactive, community-based steward of the implementation and updating of the CDP, the Community Development Plan. Provide ongoing input and advocacy to advance implementation of the CDP goals, objectives, policies, and actions. So CDP AC roles. So here we have Planning Department, AC Chair, and AC members. So we'll start with Planning Department. We primarily provide administrative support, such as timely preparation and distribution of the agenda for each meeting to satisfy meeting notice requirements, meeting logistics, correspondence, annual reports, website publications, and preparation of official posting of meeting minutes. We liaise between the committee and governmental agencies in furtherance of the CDP's goals and objectives, facilitate the implementation of the CDP, and serve as a planning resource to the committee and community. Now, with beyond the planning department, we of course have the AC members, which includes the AC chair. Now, the AC chair's role is to open all the meetings of the committee, maintain order and clarity of the process and action, and proper decorum. We're going to review all matters properly brought before the committee, call for votes upon the same, and announce the results, and authenticate by signature all acts by the committee as may be required by law. So an example of this would be on how you guys submitted comments for the general plan. That cover letter was drafted and sent to Uncle Charlie for signature and submitted. AC members as a whole, roles, responsibilities are to regularly attend action committee meetings, develop priorities and a work plan to implement community actions in the CDPs, develop partnerships with individuals, nonprofits, businesses, and community groups and / associations to implement CDP policies and actions, transmit project updates and involvement opportunities regularly to their CDP region, intentionally and explicitly engage all factions of their community with specific attention to those who are marginalized and underrepresented. And finally, invest a minimum of 8 hours of work each month in advancing the CDP implementation through priority projects and initiatives. Something that the AC is rooted in, or that is required of the AC, is to follow what is called sunshine laws. The action committee is a county administered advisory committee to the planning director, and so then therefore becomes an extension of the planning department and is subject to the sunshine law. Sunshine law is Hawaii's open meeting law. It governs the manner in which all state and county boards must conduct their business. The sunshine law outlines requirements for committee and subcommittee meetings. It also dictates how committee members are allowed to interact with each other concerning committee business. Now, I know we've recently had many changes with how our ACs are run over the past year, I would say, even with the involvement of Corporation Council. And so many things have been changed. But I think at the core of it, I still am of the belief that sunshine law isn't the big bad wolf for us. It's definitely something that we have to take in consideration, and it definitely changes the way we navigate through our priority list. And add out how we strategize. But once we have a decent understanding of sunshine law and how it limits us, there's definitely other ways for us to still be able to accomplish our goals. It's not perfect. There definitely is another thing to consider, especially for a committee that is advisory. So it can definitely feel burdensome at times. But at the current state, this is what we have to deal with. planning staff are getting trained, and then we can get corporation counsel to do routine trainings as well with staff and with AC members. I want to say the more recent PIG trainings, that was kind of something that just to change the way things have been previously done. It's not to deter us from using the permitted interaction groups as a tool in how we go about these action items. I'd like to say maybe now's the time to share how other action committees are looking into using and creating their permitted interaction groups as an avenue instead of bringing everything before the whole committee, that they go off and they do this research and then they bring this report. It allows them to still have planning staff support, so planning staff can still meet with these individuals and help them, maintain some follow through, and then the same as we do with all members in terms of like liaisoning and whatnot. So every AC is different, but I just want to let you know that there are ways in which Sunshine we can work. We can still accomplish what we want to accomplish considering Sunshine. Another item is Robert's Rule of Order. So as for committee meetings, we follow a modified version of Robert's Rule of Order. This protocol is intended to be a guide for conducting meetings and making decisions as a group. These rules help to define how a committee conducts committee business and also helps committee members understand the appropriate way to participate in a cooperative manner. Another set of rules and guidelines that can make things difficult and burdensome, but part of it definitely helps staff with our minutes and all the other Sunshine requirements that we have to follow. Also, helpful in terms of keeping us on track. It's very easy. A lot of these subjects are interrelated, and sometimes just getting through the agenda can be difficult. Robert's rules, when combination with Sunshine, it's helpful to help guide our conversation. Okay, now to the community plan itself. So the Kona Community Development Plan has 8 guiding principles. So 1, protect Kona's natural resources and culture. 2, provide connectivity and transportation choices. 3, provide housing choices. 4, provide recreation opportunities. 5, direct future growth patterns towards compact villages. Preserve Kona's rural, diverse, and historical character. 6, provide infrastructure and essential facilities concurrent with growth. 7, encourage a diverse and vibrant economy, emphasizing agriculture and sustainable economies. 8, promote effective governance. So these principles, these are themes that you'll find throughout the entire document. Now, the Kona CDP document, I'm definitely going to say is one of the more lengthy looking. I don't know if it's so easy to see on my camera screen, but it's a pretty thick one. There's a lot in here, and it can be very much overwhelming. But I think just like with all this, for the AC members, just to kind of take it a step at a time, kind of break it down. So chapters 1 and 2, it's going to give you background information and context. Chapter 3, visualizing Kona today. And chapter 4 will be highlighting goals for transportation, land use, environmental resources, cultural resources, housing, public facilities, infrastructure and services, energy and economic development. Chapter 5 is where you're going to find that implementation matrix that we keep on talking to. I believe it was attached as a communication. It looks a little something like this. Oh boy, here we go again. Looks a little something like this. It's about 2/3 of the way through in the CDP document, where it will list different action items, programs, projects, standards, and regulations that are being promoted by the Kona CDP. In chapter 9, the monitoring plan to evaluate the progress of the CDT implementation. So here's this matrix. Something to mention as you're going through the Kona CDP document, they reference an IC instead of an AC, but they are as of that they're meant to be the same thing. This is the action committee. But I believe it was considered an implementation committee at that time. Okay, so here I went through the list. I tried to pick a random from different topics, some different action items that are listed within this implementation matrix. Just to see, temp check on everybody and see what other items might kind of come to play. First on the list, PUB-2.3A. Existing and proposed fire stations meet the level of service for the urban area. A new fire station is needed in South Kona in the vicinity of Ho'okena. Possible partners, County of Hawaii Fire Department. So this is something that a lot of these items also, we don't have a good understanding of where they are in their processes. So this could be either within the committee's knowledge or to go out into the community to see where this current status is, see and see where it lists on other priorities. We can see how it lands within also county budget and all those kind of things. Another item could be CR-3.1D. This is listed under the cultural resources section. Protect Kanaka Maoli intellectual property and related traditional knowledge. Possible partners, public and private agencies, the community. This one stood out to me as I've been grant hunting for the ACs. There's definitely a lot of humanitarian grants that include many projects that could fit under this action item. Whether it's recording Mo'olelo's or Kupuna story, there's a lot that could be covered in here, and the AC, if it has any specific project in mind, we could probably find a way to connect these items within this cultural section of the Kona CDP. There's many more. Another item is PUB-6.2B, establish a master plan for expansion and improvements of the Old Airport as a district park. Possible partners, Parks and Rec, and planning. I chose this because I was seeing that we were maybe hitting some hurdles with Kealakea. Maybe it's also to check in and see how we're doing with this old airport as a district park idea. Kind of goes along with what we were talking about earlier today. Yeah. PUB/7.2E. Open existing public restrooms that are currently closed and provide for more public restrooms in strategic locations. This would obviously include PNR along with Public Works. This one stood out to me because actually at one of my initial Kona AC meetings, we had some community members that at the end of the meeting stood by to ask questions, and they were related to these situation of certain public restrooms being closed and not having access, and why they were being closed and how to get them reopened and whatnot. And I believe there's even conversation of trying to initiate a business district in the area, and this was a hindrance to them. But yeah, these are definitely all different ideas that we could look into. Planning can deep dive into the document. If we have a more specific or a focus of a specific project, that would be helpful. I've been talking with the chairs and to even other ACs about the project of making Hawaii County a tree city. This is a nationally recognized program that the county used to hold that title in the early 2000s, and then I suppose it wasn't upkept. But having that tree city designation would open the doors to other forms of funding also. But there are, I believe, 4 requirements to achieve that designation. And so then we would work with the ACs to see the status of where the county is on all these on the 4 different requirements and push forward to see if there's more money that's needed, more if there's policy making. I believe an arborist day, but that would end up working with the arborist committee as well. And all of these things, while like something that's an example to say that while there's nothing in this, I believe in this document, I did a quick search that talks about pursuing a tree city designation. There's plenty of conversation within the document that has to do with trees and landscaping practices. And so it could definitely be fit. We could find a way to create that rationale as any other topics that you all might want to bring up. So now I'd like to open the floor. Any questions, comments? Does anybody have, I know we have the ball rolling already a bit with Kealakehe. Are there other topics of it that may be interesting to the committee members that we start looking towards? Either to do collectively as a whole, the whole AC, or to piece off into a permitted interaction group. And also keep in mind that permitted interaction group isn't necessary if there's only 2 individuals working on this project. So those 2 individuals could be having conversations with planning staff, and we could be working on that as on the side as well and providing updates. Whereas in this permitted interaction group, we wouldn't be providing those updates. So that's another item to consider. But yeah.
Yeah, so I thank you for highlighting that 6.2B. I think that's something important to look at, especially with the comments we heard today about, efficiencies with the Old Bay Airport. Even the bathroom one ties in there, because I think the bathroom burned down there. Now it's mostly porta potties now. It's really bad, yeah, down in the beach area. Also, 6.2C is something I've talked about with people before, the Kona Civic Auditorium. The theaters on the islands struggle, and I know the one in South Kona is struggling with funding. Not that I want that one to go away. I think that theater's great, but there's been desire for kind of a civic auditorium, at least with people involved with the Aloha Theater. So that's like I was interested in too. And since I guess these are all with the Parks Department, which I've had really good experiences with so far. So I don't know. So I'm not super sure. I think those are great, like you said, but I don't really know what's the best way to pursue it. Do I continue trying to pull information from the Parks Department, on these things, or it's kind of where I'm stuck with all this, yeah.
Yeah, we would definitely need to loop them in on this and kind of give them maybe more of an explanation, or I don't know, try to find that way to smooth it out with them to get them on board. Some of these I mean, I guess once we have like more some items that then we can dig into and read what the plan says specifically about them, see how relevant that is to today's world. And then we can even look at different case studies. We can do we can just start that research and start those conversations with the other stakeholders.
Would it be possible, I know we have another meeting in the next month. There's a few I'm interested in, but I would love to maybe meet with you, and I just really want to meet with I want to take one on that is doable. And there's 2 that you mentioned today that were in like I have a list of priorities from the matrix, but one was around trees and one was around water monitoring in Kealakekua Bay. But I also have a daughter who plays volleyball, and they can't even get they don't even have a gym to practice in. So I think I just want to meet with you and kind of noodle on what would be achievable, because I have some interest, but I think I'd like to prioritize something that's more achievable, and come back to the next meeting with that.
Yeah.
If I can just interrupt for a second, we have someone here who wanted to testify in this item. She is
Heather, if I can interrupt on this topic and give my testimony.
Yeah.
I'm Cheryl Kane, what is my apologies. Commissioners and all participants in the creation of the Rise and Development Plan for Kona. I congratulate you on producing an action plan. It's very interesting. I'm sorry for my late submission of testimony. I first realized that this meeting was today last evening. I participated as a community representative on the action committee, hoping that with our communities recently acquired knowledge regarding a 70-acre parcel, Mount King K, and slated for dense development of 450 housing units. It could be instructed to the community development plan for future permitting of similar projects, kind of in a cautionary tale, perhaps. This reference 70-acre site was the remainder of a three-tiered plan of Kona Vistas, of which the first two sections were built between the early 90s and nearly yesterday. With that third section, undeveloped AG land steeply sloped and bisected by two of the 7 major drainage ways off of Huawei, which, by the way, have contributed to flooding on food the dental offices by the time we get a heavy rainfall up in the lower. The parcel remained in AG use long after the original developer of Kona Vistas transferred to 70 acres at a pittance in 2016, long after the previous owner's development window had expired. Excuse me. Sure.
We only received that, right?
I know, I'm gonna.
Summarize, please, yeah.
Which would be, we became aware in 2016 that this was going to work, and it was going to throw 900 cars plus twice a day into the Laco section of 13 day. And in a location that's not taken already. This ball has been kicked along and has been passed and passed and passed and accepted and extended and expired, and it continues to be on the slate to be developed. Back in around 2019, Harry Kemp took a look at it and said, I'm going to give you a tentative approval on extending it, but there's a community action plan that's going to the action committee of the common community development plan may change that whole picture. So there's a window here for us to act upon this in a constructive way. The developer had been asked to do an overlay respecting the tremendous amounts of archaeological finds. It has 2 ancient trails. It has the 2 streams. It has more things on it than you can imagine. Lies directly in line with the Kaluro Inn, which has the start of the lower that runs down and has double rock walls on this 70-acre site. There are more things on this that are incredible. We have had Hawaiian ancestry participation in this, and I do put forth that information to you, and if you need more specifics, I can get it. But the bottom line to this is, instead of kicking this can down the road, more items that are from the 4.3.1 and in managing our impacts are in this one particular parcel. Then any parcel at all that is developed should have. And as a result, I ask that you take a look at the testimony that I provided, and I would love very much to have some comment and feedback.
Yeah, I think what might be appropriate, because it wasn't on our agenda, to begin with, but on this one, if there's maybe put it on the future agenda, and then if we could start with that. You know, more people present, like, things, something like that. We might be able to address it.
It's interesting because the state always saying that. And before that, the developer was there and everybody was there for the state. And the bottom line to that was, the developer had again typically presented about 350 pages of documentation. That skipped over the fact that the Weaver Land Commission had asked the developer to present an overlay of the plat that eliminated, harming all of these archaeological finds and reference the trails and made accommodation for the streams appropriately. The developer has not, that was an asked of the developer previously, and had never been provided. Still, to my knowledge, has not been provided. Additionally, the developer was asked if he'd ever done a market study, a market price study, to find out what the market value was going to have to be, that he was going to have to target these moderate price housing. He's not done that either. In truth, this developer appears to be the middle. He is acquiring permits, and once he gets the bundle all together, it's going to get handed off at a high price to someone who's going to come in and follow it. And that's our view. I thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry, come to opinion. Or any other comments? Yeah. Okay.
I'd like to comment. This is Nancy, and we had a very good presentation last month regarding cesspool conversions. And that sort of spin off into a lot of discussion regarding recycling the wastewater and also water capacity in general. And so I went back to look in the objectives and policies of the Kona CDP, and we have a lot of, in the park also, Kalatani Park has raised this issue in terms of water, ability to provide water, and also wastewater recycling. And I looked back in the Kona CDP action plan, and there are many policies that address these issues, having to do with water quality monitoring, and water for TODs, sewer priorities, wastewater treatment, and affluent reuse. So I think the phrase they used, Mariam, earlier was need for a good understanding of current status. I think as far as the Kona CDP being drafted with these policies in 2008, I think in order for us to pursue any of these policies, we need a good understanding of where we are with all of these. And so it's more of a request, not that we're going to jump on these things and implement them, but more to get presentations like we did from our gentleman last month that dealt specifically with cesspool conversions, but also more information dealing with what is the state of Kalatani wastewater treatment, when is it going to be expanded, what is the current capacity, are they going to continue approving projects if it's under capacity, when are they going to fund wastewater reuse for that facility? There's a lot of questions that have been raised just in the last 2 months having to do with these policies, and I think we need to get current on what's going on and what's being funded and what current priorities are.
I think my only recommendation here is that it can be a slippery slope if we start going into wanting to get an update on everything, because then we're just going to spend the year, like, then that would be a separate project to get an update of this matrix essentially. And that in itself is going to take, yes, reaching out to those partner agencies and having those conversations, but it would be multiple agencies. And so my concern there is that it then that would be that would be what we would show at the end of the year, is that we've updated the matrix, which I agree is definitely something that's holding us back right now. But I guess my hope is that if we could narrow in our focus and to find a theme that we're looking to pursue, even if we go down this path and we see a particular policy that we want, that there's decent chance that it hasn't been implemented yet, that even if it's not the way that we want it in that specific way, or if there's other new things that are different today than back in 2008, that we could find a way to still pursue it, like under today's eyes or today's intentions for implementation. So I do feel that I see what you're saying, Nan. I feel like I see what you're saying, and that it's definitely would have been the better case scenario to be starting off with an updated matrix of these action items to see where we're actually standing. I believe that's actually something that the AC requested last year, late last year, when we had all those new members come on board. But in my perspective, the reality is that that document doesn't exist, and creating and going through all these items to create that in and of itself would be the workload of what all we would be able to accomplish then this year.
That wasn't what I was requesting. I wasn't requesting an update of the matrix. I was saying, I think that specifically we need an update on water and wastewater, specifically for Kona, because I don't see how we can come to conclusion regarding any future development or pursuing TRDs, for example, which is a priority of this group. If we don't know what our current reality regarding being able to supply water and also treat wastewater is. So it doesn't have anything to do with updating the matrix. It has to do with getting an update from water and public works on water or availability of water, and also wastewater treatment specifically.
So then with that perspective, in that light, I would maybe like to say that if planning or other people, typically the reality is that if you go to water supply and just ask large vague questions, we tend to not get answers. So that's where one method is to, well, let's narrow it down and find a specific project that we're talking about, and we kind of did that, and it didn't really give us what we were wanting. And so then maybe then it is to change this into being, we want updates to help us with our implementation priorities. And maybe these are formal request letters sent by the AC to these department heads or to these people, to the relevant staff in those departments. I don't know. I'm just brainstorming with you guys. I hear what you're saying. I think it's important also. I'm just, how do we actually get the response that we're looking for? What is the best way?
The meeting last was the presenter came to give us very particular information about cesspool conversions. And then as soon as it opened up to discussion, they got into a much broader frustration on, people's part about where we are with wastewater treatment, where we are with recycling of wastewater, and even just water in general. So it's a very, we have a very big urban boundary in Kona, and these issues have to be addressed. And I think that presentation we got last month regarding cesspool conversions was an excellent presentation. I'd like to get a presentation from Public Works regarding the status of the Katakani wastewater treatment plant, for example. And as far as I know, there's a Earth Justice lawsuit, that affluent is going into the ocean, when we need a status update on that, I would say.
Okay.
I'm not asking you to give an answer, I'm expressing
your brainstorm.
a concern.
I have a comment if that would be, can I comment if
Go ahead, Janet.
that's something that Nancy said? Well, I mean, and the truth is that while we're discussing it, there's still being permits given, SMAs and other development permits that are in areas that are sensitive without that information, and without TODs and TNDs being laid out. When there's been some, pretty significant approvals given for that. So, I mean, it's imperative. I don't even understand how that can be happening when we don't have, when the CDP is an ordinance and we don't have the TNDs and TODs figured out. So, I mean, it just seems imperative that just seems like a number one thing, what Nancy's talking about, however we have to do it.
Mary, if I can comment. So when I came on the AC years ago, I thought my vision was, in sitting here, was to kind of like prevent the problems we're talking about in future planning. We're supposed to be mapping the future. And while these problems exist, for the AC to be aware of them, I think is important, but it's still gonna fall back on the departments who are responsible for the repair or disrepair of some of the infrastructure. And to the extent that we can advise them on fixing or correcting those, I don't know that we possess the professional sort of background or capacity to do that. You would think the department would. So I'm not being critical of the projects per se, but we're developing more of those problems because we just seem to be developing without the action committees and the community which provides then the community input. So that's not a problem, it's so in asking or in trying to develop the efficiencies and efficacy of the AC, I think what we're asking for is the information that would actually allow us to look at how future development can be contoured, based with community input. Water is, I think, now one of the biggest elements of that because it precludes development. But it is interdepartmental, it's interstate, and it's compartmentalized. And I met with the water department, the mayor, Bobby Command, probably a year ago. And the wastewater treatment, according to Bobby at that time, because of funding, was way down at the bottom. Because right now the DOH says it's fine to put that into the ground. Groundwater, but what happened is now we've got this suit. And so that's what it took, I think, for the county then to, enter into this agreement with EPA to get rid of all the cesspools and treat the water, what have you. It's like I'm looking backwards, walking into the future, looking backwards, and I didn't envision that, I thought in the beginning. So I think what we're asking, or at least what I would be asking for is, just a present update as to where the county sees itself going relative to its planning, relative to the resources, relative to what present day condition is now, so that we can actually participate in how these decisions might be, and policy decisions might be made with our input, and basically with the community talking, or utilizing the AC on their behalf. So I think everything you pointed out in the matrix is important to do. I think these are projects that should be done. And certainly I think the AC has a concern about it, but it seems like we're not in a position to be looking forward without some of the information. Absent information. I don't know, that don't make sense. Yeah. So I have no solution for what I just wanted to put forward, but I am uncomfortable, not knowing like the Kona issue that just came up today, some of the SMEs that are being included. And these are being done, you know, without the benefit of, I think the action committee being able to at least comment on this. And comment in a sense, the water, for instance, the water issue, for instance, is that we have a limited capacity of water in Kona. Everybody knows that. The aquifer has, the seaworm has almost, was gonna dedicate it as a special use, which means there were gonna be different, parameters on the use of water for this particular aquifer. I don't believe that the county has an approved water usage development plan that's approved by seaworm. And this is why they're having difficulties getting more permits. If they did have a water plan, they could almost turn into where there would be no permits because of what restrictions might be on them. So I've been involved now with the Ota well. Leo Kalani wants to drill a well. And I think Department of Hawaiian Homes is looking for water too, and I think they're having a meeting Thursday night about this. So, you know, that's a major issue for us because it's a limited resource. And if it goes into development, that is for housing that is not affordable for the rentals, then that's water our community is losing where it can develop itself. And I think that's a valid question. Yet we're not, the AC is not, you know, party, I guess, to that process that's getting these developments approved. So I feel strongly about that. And so I would echo Nancy, what she said. I think about try to get us more informed. Now, if that's something the AC needs to initiate, then I think we want some guidance from you or from staff as to whether, you know, we should be requesting that from the planning department or from the planning director, if that's the avenue that, since we're assigned to the planning department, we're not assigned to the other department, so I'm not so sure how much response we would get. But I think the planning director, because we're attached to the planning department, maybe we have a higher level of response there.
May I respond to you, Charlie?
Sure.
I think, you know, but this goes back to a lot of my initial interest in getting on the AC was more community outreach. So I think we're a catalyst for receiving information, but the goal is to educate the community on a broader level. And even if that means having, you know, being the host of a larger public presentation on these issues, but the community has to get to speed on this stuff. It's not just the few of us living in this room. And, you know, one of the policies in the Kona CDP under the environmental protection chapter is we're supposed to have an environmental resource management education program. We're not doing much education. And I think regarding the water issues right now and all the issues you discussed, it's something that we could serve as a catalyst for further education and have a public meeting and invite people to come and update the community. I think that in itself is a goal, to have an opportunity to get people up to speed on where we are with our water moving forward and our wastewater as well. Not just to come and talk to a few of us sitting in this room, but to get this information out so people know realistically what's going on and how decisions are being made based on a limited resource.
Yeah, I guess, you know, my comment to that is we don't know what the situation is. I don't know how we share that.
Well, we can be a catalyst for a presentation and invite people that know.
Right.
And I'd be willing to work on something like that.
You have answers. There are answers. Why aren't we getting them?
That's a question to ask.
Yeah, there are answers, and if they're not giving the answers, are they hiding something because of this lawsuit or whatever? There are answers. Somebody knows the answers, and they need to be shared with the people so you guys can move forward. There's no way you guys can move forward without this information. The information is there and someone has it. So the answers need to be given.
For me, it was ironic that Kalakaua Regional Park can't get water and there's, you know, water permits being given all of that.
Yeah, so
The
they-
district.
So, you know, someone knows the answers and someone's not living.
So it's a big issue.
They need to be demanded.
So I think what we said earlier about the sending something about.
And maybe talking about doing a public presentation. I had a successful presentation at the airport. It was very well attended.
Yeah.
So I feel like what I'm hearing, just to kind of correct me if I'm wrong, that maybe actually one of our priorities could be, it seems to be in the theme of advocacy. Like maybe you guys are asking for presentations to be done to be had at at our AC meetings. But another version of this could be that you all, it's sounding like you could also be being advocates across the different, because I feel like everything that was mentioned today, that's not just county. We're talking water commission, we're talking all of these other things. And so these public notices and this gap that happen, right? Technically by code, a lot of these agencies are doing their public notices, but there's still that disconnect in the community, even with our own little AC right here. And so then maybe a priority that the Kona AC would want to consider is remaking those connections and becoming that advocate and you can be providing your testimony to these different commissions and committees under this Kona CDP, as the Kona CDP document, as your rationale as to why the AC is engaging, right? This is planning commission, this is council, this is water commission, this is like a lot of what the topics that you guys are interested in. And then through that approach, you would also become more in tune with what's actually being said about at these meetings at the same time, right? Talking about the different wells, talking about the different projects. I don't know, I'm just saying that could be a possible path that you guys could go down in terms of, while you're educating yourselves, you're also using that as an opportunity to advocate for the Kona CDP at these different boards or commission meetings. I believe, just as a little bit of a tangent, public notice distribution within the planning department to the public has definitely been something that multiple ACs have brought up, and your guys' role in that. Yes, you're not decision making on those permit applications, but there is an avenue for you guys frequently in a lot of these types of applications to voice your guidance based on the Kona CDP, not just as a member of the general public, but as an action committee member and as a committee as a whole. So I don't know, I just wanted to throw that into the mix as we continue talking.
Question on that. So if we wanted to start advocating for different CDP initiatives or priorities in boards and commissions, and we were to attend those meetings, we would need to then come back the next month and agendize our proposal and get a vote and then go back. So it would take 2 months.
Yeah.
I'm brand new. I just want to make sure I'm understanding.
Yeah, and that's, yeah, in the ideal scenario, we would agendize this, the topic, the application, or whatever it is that you want to provide testimony on, host that meeting, but at that meeting, a letter could already be presented drafted, just kind of like what we did with general plan. You guys drafted that letter, Nancy presented it, and you guys voted yay or nay, or any amendments that you wanted to make, cleaned it up and sent it out. Or just like also how we did for that bill. And if there's something of urgency, I mean, we would need a quorum, right? And so then it would be, we need to follow 6 days with sunshine and we need a quorum. And so we would post it as, if everybody agreed, it could be more of a last minute thing like that. And it would be just, and that would be the only thing on the agenda, or whatever letters you guys want to review. And then that would be, assuming we get quorum, it could be voted on within that time period too. But that is also keeping in mind capacity of staff and, you know, of our venues, and because we need an in-person location and whatnot. So the shorter term quick turnaround is less ideal, but a lot of times we have more time anyways, if than just 6 days or a week or two. But yeah, those are the limitations that we also have to consider and work through.
Go ahead,
Could I-
Janice.
Yeah, thanks, Miriam. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the problem with a lot of the issues. I don't think so much about bringing something new to the table. But we often don't even have an agenda. You know, the agenda comes out in 7 days, and then how could the AC like testify? You know, they could never get together and then have somebody testify for us, or, you know, for the community, the CDP in time. I mean, most projects and most initiatives are sort of happening like that. Like there isn't that much public time ahead of time to figure it out. I don't know how that would work with the AC. You know, I mean, like you're saying, like you have 6 days ahead. I don't know, like the GP was a different thing because we had this timeline that was like, okay, April 1st. So that was a whole long time. But usually it's just a week. I mean, really, I mean, you might know that it's going to go to the council after the planning commission, but even that is usually pretty short compared to a monthly schedule of the AC. So I don't know. It's just been an interesting ongoing thing for us. I don't know.
Something that could be is that we could have dedicated AC members kind of tracking different bills or, you know, different agencies. And so then it's kind of more of like a ready, and we kind of just have something that we typically say, you know, it can be kind of a little bit more expedited in that way. I mean, I don't know.
Well, Chuck might do that. He's tracking it. Oh, Maki, you're there too. They're tracking things so well. I mean, really, we do have some eyes, you know, people who are paying attention to things. If they just connected, I mean, that would sort of be an outreach thing that would be cool, is, you know, if something's coming up that's related to this CDP in some way, just shoot you know, an email to you and to Charlie, something like that, just to give a heads up that, I don't know. I'm just brainstorming too.
Miriam?
Thanks.
Yes.
Miriam, you mentioned earlier the implementation committee, which is now the AC committee, but in the action plan, it says, in addition to the 9 members, 1 representative each from the Design Center, the Kona Housing Nonprofit, the Kona Treasurers Fund, and the Kona Cultural Resources Committee shall serve as ex officio members of the implementation committee. Does that, I'm assuming that's carrying through to the action committee.
In theory, yes. But I don't believe the design center was ever established. I believe that's different than the Kailua Village Design Committee, right? The design center is not something that actually happened. Am I wrong about that?
It did happen. It's not in operation now. I was participated in some of the design center meetings when I was working in the mayor's office, but it's currently not in operation as far as I know.
Do you have a comment on this?
Sorry, did you call my name?
Oh, sorry, it just looked like you were trying to talk for a while.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment. Going back to how does this long range action committee actually provide action? One flaw that I saw, and Janice was with me on this testimony, is we witnessed Zendo make a comment at the very end after many testimonies opposing a 100-unit hotel right here in Kailua Kona, and over 13 luxury units and 3 swimming pools on Ali'i Drive. And ended with the Leeward Planning Commission asking Zendo Kearns, after we have been asking for tsunami, fire, lava evacuation routes.
that hasn't been addressed, and we've actually stopped building permits for those, which Zendel has re-released permits for it without addressing proper evacuation routes. And so we wanted to demand a capacity study. And his comment was, by law, they don't have to do that. So as an action, long-range action committee, is there a way to advocate for laws and to be part of lawmaking? And that to me is worth the volunteer time, because you're actually implementing everything under the sun that's been talked about right now. That's water issues, land, environmental impact, affordable housing. So that's my comment, is I'd love to see rulemaking after listening to the community for decades. I think it'd be very valuable. With that said, I'm chair of HuliPac. It's a island-wide organization, and we'd love to collaborate and Hui together so that we can get information out there for you guys. Thank you.
There were, Miriam, there were other things in here, I think, about funding for this, for the AC. And something about forming a nonprofit for that.
The first thing that comes to my mind is the nonprofit for the housing that I believe the plan. I don't know quite necessarily about nonprofit pursuing funding for the AC. I do, yeah, if you go to section 5 or chapter 5, that the action plan, then it talks 5.1, the financing plan. And so it kind of breaks down the different larger things, you'll see open space network in here, the design center set up, the cultural resources committee is actually referenced a lot in this document, and the breaks down versus like the capital improvement project, how many items could be listed in there, and then other, I believe, alternate funding sources, talking about general obligation bonds, revenue bonds, user fees, impact fees, tax increment financing, grants and donations, reimbursement programs. And so hence my instinct and just because I guess that's the background I come from. I come from the nonprofit world. That grants is kind of where I tend to look towards. And also with the rationale that everybody's trying to get a piece of the county budget already. And so if we were to look outside of that and look at other federal or state dollars that we could tap into, then the conversation might be a little different.
Yes, I wanted to ask about that because you had mentioned for the CR 3.1D that you might have found grants that are applicable.
Right. So at the federal level, there's humanitarian grants, and a lot of times, a lot of these kind of projects, even with the libraries and things like that. I mean, I know that's state, but like a lot of these projects could be, we don't need to go after on their first shot after a 500K grant, but we could do some smaller projects that might, get our toes wet, get us used to the process and how it could work in the AC world. And when you think about that in practice, that's usually probably going to be planning, submitting the RFP, unless we can find another nonprofit to work through. A lot of times, you need that designation, but also county government usually qualifies for some at that level, and it could get funneled in through that way. Kind of think about it like a little mini art, like the county's research and development department, like a little small version of that, but it's kind of curated by the ACs. I know at some degree, we would probably need to actually, if successful and we want to keep on growing that kind of engagement, then we would probably need to bring on board different type of staff for grant management and counting and stuff like that. But short term, we could probably do something like that also if that was in the AC's interest.
This would be us like applying for the grant.
Yeah, we could work together to draft the RFP, work together on all the pieces of it, and seeing if we have other stakeholders or partner agencies that want to submit it for us, or if we do it through planning. Those are options that I know are possible. It just kind of depends on the details of it. And then because one thing is getting the grant and getting awarded, and another thing is going through and closing that grant too. So it's experience that I have. Not much of my team does, but it's just something we could try to do also.
Okay, I might follow up with you on that, the ones that you specifically
Yeah.
talked about.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and so that's where I kind of started talking when if I go back to that Tree City conversation, an example of that is that there's this state money for urban forestry. Kona has a lot of urban area compared to some of the other districts, and so it was kind of thought, we can go over a small grant like that, 20K. There's a matching requirement, just kind of get that practice, get that under our belt and see how that goes. Work with parks to plant some trees around the parks or something like that. I don't know. We could define it.
Money is the biggest problems, right? And if there's money that we can get to do things, I think
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
So, thanks for bringing it to us.
Yeah.
Can I just make a quick comment on that? The Tree City idea is so great. I just, I just hope that maintenance goes with it. I think that's a big problem for the county. So, I would just hate to see people spin their wheels. I did a big project at Kona with the kids, and every tree that we planted is gone. I mean, that was not due to the county, but that also happens on all the shopping centers and stuff here. So industrial areas. So just whatever somebody writes and whatever your goals are, I just hope that we remember that we need to include funding and be sure there's an impetus for maintenance.
Was it that they weren't watered, mulched, like discared for, or they were?
All kinds of things, like people steal things. I think mostly with the county and what I see and the state is that they just, yes, they don't maintain them properly. We just saw, I mean, last year or the year before, just depends who the maintenance people are. Somebody who knew nothing obviously came and chopped down, butchered the plumerias at Old Airport and a bunch of the other trees that they were maintaining. And then, the county came and removed some trees on Walua Road that, there's always a reason because maintenance is expensive. And it's just, I'm in touch with the administration about it, more regularly than I'm sure they want to hear, but it's just an ongoing problem. And there just need to be somebody who stayed on it, because just having them planted is, it's tough. And it's tough.
That can be an example of how the AC can be going down that advocacy path, because that's a very real thing. It's island wide, and maybe the AC can work to be drafting and working with other stakeholders to draft some tree legislation, or working on maybe invigorate or revitalizing the arborist committee, all these kind of things, and advocacy in those types of ways.
Yeah, it's a long-term commitment. That's the thing. It just is when it comes to plants and trees. That's my thing. I'm a landscape designer. So when when you see that money and effort put in, you just really want buy-in from whoever is going to be responsible in the long term for maintaining that stuff. It takes a long time to make a beautiful tree, and it takes a few minutes to knock it down. Like when we had the water restrictions here, I was just trying to get the county to continue to water some of the specimen trees that we had, and native palms that died. And, we just have to use logic, and there was still a lot of water being used in other areas for other things. But meanwhile, these plants that were irreplaceable in probably one generation's lifetime, that just were lost. So I think it's a great idea to come up with some legislation. And I just think, once again, just like all the bills, all the initiatives that we do, it's enforcement and regulation, enforcement and maintenance, with that it's maintenance. And, I don't know if I could say enough. I've been around too long to see how many, not to be discouraging, because I'm still really into it. I would love to be a part of something like that because I believe it's possible, but I just want everybody has to go in with their eyes open because it's not easy. It's a big thing.
Go ahead, Kim. But I think that C or open here. That's your preference.
I,
Yeah, it should.
yeah, the camera's just facing the other way.
Again, Colin Keola, Childs. With regard to this, this topic about, for the action committee and its priorities, I would like to suggest a different approach than what's being discussed of, asking for these updates. Instead, I would like to suggest asking with the department's help, actually them doing most of the work with the other agencies, to compile a list on the capital improvement program, the budget, for somewhat arbitrarily 20 years back, to have a chart of all the money that the county has spent for capital improvement projects in their general category. Some are just for plan development. They put that into. These are things that bonds are floating for. So when the county says we have no money, we can't float bonds, etc., it's a result of the budget. The program is the basket that they reach into to create the budget. The budget is what's actually spent from year to year. If we can have a 20-year picture of how much monies are spent in each of the planning of the 6 planning districts, CDP planning districts. So we can say I'm going to make this out of thin air, if there's $100 million spent over 20 years, how much of that was spent? And this is in the past, growth is happening different, but to get an idea, if each planning area is getting, $5 million a year on a long-term average, not every single year, but say every 5 years, they might get 10 million, etc. If we can begin to get an idea of how much Kona can expect to get of that pie, and what's been happening what has the county done over 20 years total? How much variation? There's different priorities. Kona's had major problems with volcanic issues, for example. There's been federal grants that have come in, but we have tax dollars too. If we could have a chart that would show how much has been spent, how it was spread out over the 6 planning areas, and then allocate that by color coding. Okay, this was federal grant for sewage remedy. This was federal grant for lava flow relocation. Federal grant for this, state grant for that. But then you can look through the core and say a special needs, special solutions, but you have the property tax base also. From that, we can have the basis to say, okay, if we're spending this, and on average, it's been like this, police station here, Kona Park there, so forth. What can we expect to see in Kona for the next 10-year period from now, based on that in today's dollars, adjusted up, not from 1990 dollars, but from today's dollars? What can we expect? So if we can get a ballpark minimum number, assuming no federal grants, no special nonprofit grants, but what's our core that we can say we need this money spent for, and with the action committee's priorities, certain major connector highways, certain water wells, we need to have 5,000 water units deliverable. However you can get it, county, however you're going to pay for it, we need 5,000 water units, making this up in the next 10 years. We have to begin to have the basics to allocate the money for the regional park, the Kona district park being upgraded, various road sections, a whole range of things, because right now, we're in the position of the famous Charles Dickens book of Oliver Twist, a needy bunch of orphans standing there with a bowl saying, more please, but the kids don't know how much is more. As opposed to the man labeling out says, I got enough food here for 10 kids, and there's 20 of you, so you're each gonna get half a bowl, and there's no more please. Right now, it's a game where we're in an adult-child relationship with the county. The action committees are like children, and the county has this information. We need to get on the same level, so we understand how much food is in the bowl. So how much can we expect? So we can decide how much we're gonna run around, how much kind of work we're gonna do. Because we're never gonna get anywhere, always asking one mayor after another, or how's it look? How's it look? What you think? How's it gonna go? We need to have more. We need to know our resources. And that's gonna be based mostly on history. Mostly on history. Just like there's only been from 2007 to 2020, 13 years, 12,000 residential building permits. It's about 900 something a year for the entire county. So all these TOD plans, all this kind of stuff, 14 TODs over 14 miles, and all these great ideas, wonderful. But no more population growth for that. We have a 200-year plan. And we don't understand this as a community, that we don't have this thing focused down to what we can actually afford. We need the California treatment water. We need the regional park. We also need Kailua, existing park, to be upgraded. We need lots of things. But we need to know where the money is and how much we can go after the federal. And so when you meet with the mayor, you can have the conversation at that level. Mayor, here's our averages. What can we expect? And what do you think you can get from federal help or state help? They can have an intelligent conversation and a better shot at knowing what to push for. That's just my my suggestion, is rather than just always asking for what they think at each stage.
Thank you. You guys have any questions? No. Sound good. Yes, sir. That's what, well, policy and presentation. Policy. And what so action item and two. And the next one's going to be the draft. On action. That's fine. Yeah. So we have someone. I think it is fine. This is the plan is better that you and speaking to you. And introduce yourself.
Aloha Kanku, aloha everyone. I am Ramaku Mika Roy. I know it's late in the day and thank you for accepting my coming good comment today. I'd like to remind members of this Kona CDP focus group work initiative of some very important information that's come to Kona. We are a very important place for the world. We always knew that, but now I want to remind us that in 2010 actually, I am Ramaku. My father restored Ahuela Hi'au. I inherited the care. I am one of two who now have a kauoha of care of the temple of the king from the Niha. And it is our first temple, the first capital site of Hawaii. and that is at Kamakapuni. This is where I represent, and also representing Palauna Mauna, which will be the first spiritual school of the earth that's coming forward by an incredible miracle that has come to Kamakapuni. We are hearing from the ancestors of Ulihi as of 2010. What's 2010 but the 200th anniversary of the unification of the islands by Kamehameha the Great? This was his personal temple that I represent, and that my father led the restoration for. So this information went to the legislature, and one of the first things I did was submit this testimony to the county's long-term planning department, to let them know that the ancestors of Ulihi have a full report for 40 miles of land from Kabako in the north to Hononau in the south. These lands are set aside by a court, by way of our ancestors. This is the miracle. We've heard of the miracle of Fatima, the world miracles of the world. Well, here we have one here that I have announced many times, and Charles, we have been informed witness to this with the CDP as well. So this is talking about our very Kona, from Kabako in the north to Hononau in the south. It covers the whole area, spanned by Ali'i Drive, all of the areas where, this is why an Ali'i Parkway was not to be, and it still is not to be, because later, as we now in time, we are hearing from our great source that these are lands important to history, to spiritual history, for not only the Hawaiian people, but for the earth. So they need to be protected. There's a moratorium that's been replaced by my testimony that's been given right when we received it. The action committees of the Kona CDP have heard me. You've gathered my testimony, so has long-term planning for the general plan received it. I'm here because, and I'm glad I could catch your meeting today, because any chance I can be here to remind you of this very, very important, miraculous, one-of-a-kind occurrence for Kona is important, and that's why I'm here. If you have any questions for me, I will take them. Charles, you remember when I've given testimony? Nancy, maybe not, I haven't seen you for some time, but any others, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. You see, I've told Governor Josh Green that this is a call for a moratorium of development. No new development for the 40 miles. That's significant. These are the lands that most people cherish the most in Kona as rich. Well, they are rich. You know why? These are lands that cover from Kamakapuni, from Kabako all the way to Honolulu. They're rich for God. And is Hawaii rich? Yes. What is the meaning of Hawaii? The breath, the ha, the vai, the spirit of E, Most High God. Before we were named Hawaii, we were named Kalua Okalani, the second heaven. This is why those lands, especially Keonomahi and Honolulu, these are the lands of imperative. This is why my father chaired the Kamoa Point Commission. My family grew up around the history of Keonomahi at Honolulu. These are the reasons. These are the years where Ha'aliko o Kalua Kalani, like a Kalua Kalani bursts forth, like a crab sheds her shell. These are the very years by spirit that this is happening. This is why all of the Hawaiian people have clamored to protect, especially the lands of Olive Drive. This is why, because now comes forward God's very news. I am named Lamaku by God, and I have been guided in the most, I cannot say how in awe I am of this story unfolding, for not only our Oiwi, but for the world, that Most High God speaks by way of our ancestors. Oiwi, the people of the bones. I'm not a native Hawaiian, I am an Oiwi. The blood of these islands, we are the native Hawaiian people. Not native Hawaiian, but we are the people of the bones of the Pacific. So this Ahuenahiel is the first temple built by mankind on the earth. That's what we have learned by our ancestors, the very first. And imagine the men who restored it had to do a very special job for Akua, for God, for all of our people and for the people of the earth. This is what's important. And so thank you for hearing my words today, Charles, and please, I'll take any questions if you have them. It's major news. I will remind our mayor, our governor, at every turn, we can be sure. Thank you for coming to the review.
Yeah. Do you have any more discussion on this item? Miriam?
Well, I think then planning will go ahead and send out that Google form to see, and maybe the Google form will kind of just be a lot open-ended that AC members can submit ideas, and then we'll kind of go over those responses at our next chair meeting. Before then, Heather, if you wanted to set up a time to meet, that's, a-okay, send me an email, we can set that up. And we'll give you guys a bit of a couple weeks to respond to that Google form. I don't know, shortly before our chair meeting to just kind of see to tally in where everybody is. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna want all of that done before we post next agenda.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're gonna want all of that done before our next chair meeting, really, so that we can discuss it, and kind of see what we're looking at, and kind of use that to draft the next agenda.
Just a caution to the committee members so that we respond at least 1 week before the next.
Yeah. Yeah. With you guys being monthly, it's a bit of a quick turnaround, but yeah.
Okay. If there's no more discussion on action business item 2, we can move on to the third item. It's 2:18. We're past time as usual. Stay on. We okay with going forward?
I have to be back to the.
Okay, we'll go as quickly as we can. But we don't lose quorum, I'm assuming. Okay, so the last item was draft general plan 2045 timeline.
I can go ahead and give an update if you guys are ready.
Yes.
So basically, where we're at is the comment period concluded on April 1st. So now here at the planning department, planners and other staff will they're gonna go and review all of the comments and all the other feedback that was received. As of right now, I believe the latest number I heard is that they're going through about 3,000 comments. So they're pushing really hard to work through those comments and see what kind of edits and all these kind of changes that are going to be done, and to finally come together and make a final recommended draft. And so that will be I believe if we go off the press release that they state, that's marking the beginning of the adoption process. So the department is looking to release this final recommended draft to the public by July 29th. It's a pretty quick turnaround. Once that draft is out, then we're looking to do at least one other round of public engagement. No idea yet how that looks or what's going to be involved. I'm assuming we'll also, if there's we'll probably have, Zoom and all those kind of other options. We're still looking into that, but we're going to do another round of public workshop essentially. And then at the close of that public comment period, which will hopefully be a quick turnaround, and submit that final draft along with those that next round of public comments, and we're going to send those to Planning Commission. Once Planning Commission has received those, they will have 150 days to offer their recommendations to County Council. So I guess a timeline for you guys to consider is, in terms of general plan and the AC providing comment or testimony. So you're going to have another, once that draft is released at the end of July, there'll be another opportunity for you guys to review and provide public comment at that moment to Planning Department, and or wait until it hits Planning Commission and prepare to provide written and or verbal testimony once the plan is being heard at Windward and or Leeward Planning Commission. It'll be heard at both, so you guys can provide testimony to both. And then after Planning Commission gives their the recommendations to County Council, then when it's heard in front of County Council, those will be other opportunities for the Action Committee to provide testimony as well. But to let you know, that's the timeline we're looking at. With this, I guess the highlighting piece is just that the next draft will be released at the end of July. So, some ACs are looking to kind of start putting together some comments, but also until the next draft is released, you don't really know what you're commenting on necessarily. And I would like to suggest that comments and testimony coming from the Action Committee, that they kind of be founded in the light of the you guys' Kona CDP document, of course. But yeah. So that's kind of the general update. Any questions, feel free now or at any point, please feel free to reach out to me or Janice.
Any questions? Is there any other discussion? I don't see. If not, then we can kind of move on to.
Charlie, can I ask a question?
Yeah,
Sorry.
go ahead.
And I couldn't hear you too also. Sorry, I don't want to intrude. But I do have my question that I've been asking the planning department, and that is at the county council meeting following the planning commission meetings for the GP. So after July 29th or whenever it is, far after that, 150 days, will substantive changes, amendments be able to be made to the draft GP? Or is that, and that is because of ordinance 70 that was from 2007, that might prohibit that?
So that's actually a question that's coming in front of Corporation Council right now. And
Oh,
so
okay.
once
Wow.
we get
Okay.
word from them, that can be answered. Yeah.
Oh, great. Well, I'm glad
Right.
to hear that's happening right
Great
now. Thank
question.
you. Okay. Okay.
Thanks, Karen, for asking that. It's important to know. Okay, if we can close business item 3, we can move on to the maybe discussion on next agenda and next meeting. We have Tuesday, April 21st and 9th. Don't think that's.
No. I think it's the May 20th.
Yes. Is it May?
So third Tuesday?
Yeah. May.
Yep, the
May
third
20th.
Tuesday is May 21st.
Okay, so we can discuss what we might want to have on the agenda. We're probably going to go through the rule at the end result, yeah. So that we probably want. should we, do you think we'll have any more additional part?
I can let my department know, CDP, because I'll probably follow up with both, but if I don't, hear you. I can follow up with an email, what you can do the word. I plan to get something that's fun.
We have time to put something on, we can just,
Yeah,
just for now, just maybe kind of brainstorm it.
yeah.
The letter to, Bobby Command, Marion. You think we might have a response by then?
I'm sorry, somebody was talking to me. What was the question?
No. Yeah, we were talking about maybe sending, something to Bobby Command to see if he would come. Maybe talk to us a little bit about maybe the water issues and all the associated things that are maybe in the way.
Yeah, I would like to work on that with, is there an AC member that's interested in working on that, with me? And then we can work together on that, on drafting it. And planning can do, finalizing and most of the narrative, but just to make sure, to read through the first versions. To make sure it's in the right energy.
I'll work with that, because the water issue is pretty close.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it would hurt, but Bobby's gonna represent the mayor directly. And I have heard him speak on this, the water issue. So I think it might be good here. And maybe he has then you go from there. He points out, brings a lot of things and stuff. So I'd like to put that on, it's up to you. Assuming we can make a letter in response. Any other things that you can think of now? Okay, so we're gonna probably have new ideas, or we may have some additions, but at this point, just those two items.
Yeah, she's talking to someone, but,
Okay. Okay. This is-
Sounds good.
Yeah.
If you want to add anything, you can just email us.
Yeah. Okay. So. Oh, just have an update.
Yeah, just very quickly, back in last summer, we had the public meeting on the Kona Open Space Network. And since then, the public meeting in August, we had a meeting on January 11th and February 27th. With the subcommittee that was in existence through the Kona CDP, plus the consultant Jacobs. And there's another meeting tomorrow, and so they've been going through all the suggestions that were submitted by the community for the hubs and links for the Kona Open Space Network. And the consultant is also they're kind of using the subcommittee, I would say, to test a protocol for working with the larger community, going back out into the larger community and try to prioritize, because there have been so many suggestions provided that they want to find a way from the broader to the community to narrow down, what are the priorities and what is most important to the community, what makes most sense for hubs and links for Kona Open Space Network. So those are the kind of discussions that have been going on. So nothing really has happened, but they have been meeting and brainstorming to try to figure out, because this is a whole new thing, to develop a hubs and links open space plan for Kona. So they're trying to actually get their heads around what is it and how is it going to manifest itself and what should the priorities be. So there's another meeting actually with the consultant and representatives from the county and the state and the original core committee members tomorrow too. And I think they're also going to be talking about what the next steps is as far as broader community outreach, and things they plan on having another larger public meeting. So hopefully tomorrow we'll find that out and I'll bring that information back to you.
Any other announcements? Thank you, Nancy. If not, we can move to adjourn.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Hearing none, meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for your patience.
Thank you. Take care.
Need staff for staying around.
They gotta try it like they do.